Long ago, in a quiet village surrounded by deep forests, people believed in many old tales. They spoke of spirits, witches, and a dark being called the devil. It was said that he left a mark on anyone who made a deal with him. This mark looked like a burn that never healed. No one had seen it, but everyone feared it. In this village lived a boy named Zion. He was poor, but kind-hearted and always helped others. His father had died years ago, and his mother was very sick. Every day, Zion prayed for her to get better, but nothing worked. One cold night, as he sat by her bed, he whispered, "I would give anything to save her." That night, Zion had a strange dream. A tall man in black appeared before him. His eyes glowed red, and his smile was cold. "I can help your mother," the man said. "But you must give me something in return." Zion asked, "What do you want?" The man pointed at his chest and said, "Only your soul." Then he vanished. Zion woke up sweating. It felt so real, but he told himself it was just a dream. However, the next morning, his mother could walk again. Her fever was gone. The healer in the village was shocked. "It's a miracle," he said. But Zion felt uneasy, remembering the man in the dream. A few days later, Zion noticed something strange on his skin. On his left hand, just below the thumb, a small dark mark had appeared. It looked like a flame, almost burned into his flesh. He rubbed it, but it wouldn't go away. Fear filled his heart. Was the dream real? Had he made a deal? Zion kept the mark a secret. He wore gloves, even in summer. But at night, he heard whispers. They came from the trees, the wind, even the walls. "You are mine now," the voice said. Zion felt trapped. He had saved his mother, but at what cost? He went to the old village priest, hoping for help. The priest listened carefully, then showed him an ancient book. It spoke of the devil's mark and warned that it meant your soul belonged to darkness. "You must break the deal," the priest said, "before the mark spreads." The priest gave Zion a task. He had to go to the place where he made the deal, in his dream, and burn a candle of pure light. Then he must say the truth aloud, that he made a deal, and that he wanted to take it back. "But beware," the priest warned. "The devil doesn't like losing." Zion followed the path into the forest at midnight. The air was cold, and strange shadows danced around him. He reached an old tree that looked just like the one in his dream. He lit the candle with shaking hands and spoke the truth. "I made a deal," he said. "I want my soul back." Suddenly, the wind roared. The ground shook. The tall man in black appeared again. His eyes burned brighter than fire. "You dare break the deal?" he shouted. "Your mother's life for your soul was the price." Zion stood firm. "I was wrong. I take it back." The devil screamed in anger and reached out to grab him. But the light from the candle grew stronger, brighter than the moon. The devil shrieked and vanished into smoke. Zion fell to the ground, tired and scared, but the mark on his hand had disappeared. Zion returned home, weak but free. His mother was still alive and well. He told her everything, and she hugged him tightly. "You were brave," she said. Zion learned that nothing good comes from dark deals. And from that day on, he helped others with honesty and faith. In the village, people still talk about the devil's mark. But now, they also talk about a boy who faced the devil and won. Zion's story became a warning, but also a message of hope. No matter how dark the night, light will always find a way. After that night in the forest, Zion hoped the nightmare was over. Days passed peacefully. The mark was gone, and the whispers had stopped. But something still felt strange. At times, Zion saw shadows move where there was no wind. Once, he even saw red eyes watching him from behind a tree. One evening, he found a small burn on the floor near his bed. It looked fresh, as if someone had dropped a hot coal. He asked his mother, but she hadn't seen anything. Maybe it's just the candle, she said. But Zion was not so sure. The fear in his heart returned like a cold wind in summer. Zion returned to the village priest and told him everything. The priest looked worried. The devil is angry, he said. He lost your soul, and now he wants revenge. You must protect yourself. He handed Zion a silver chain with a small cross. Wear this always. Evil fears the sign of light. Zion wore the chain and felt safer for a while. But then, strange things started happening in the village. Cows stopped giving milk. Children had nightmares and screamed in their sleep. One night, the church bell rang by itself at midnight. People gathered outside, shaking with fear. Some villagers began to whisper about Zion. This all started when his mother was healed, one woman said. He wears gloves all the time, said another. Maybe he's cursed. Zion heard them and felt a deep sadness. He had only wanted to save his mother. Now, the whole village feared him. He decided to leave the village for some time. Maybe distance would keep everyone safe. He packed a small bag and hugged his mother tightly. I'll come back when this is over, he said. Tears filled her eyes. Be careful. My son. Wherever you go, my prayers are with you. Zion wandered through forests and crossed rivers. He met kind people who gave him food and shelter. He always helped in return, fixing fences, carrying water, and telling stories to children. But each night, he felt something following him. Sometimes, he smelled smoke where there was no fire. One stormy evening, he reached a ruined temple deep in the hills. The roof was broken, but the stone walls still stood strong. Inside, he found carvings of angels and ancient words he could not read. In the center stood a stone bowl filled with ashes. It felt like a place of power. As he lit a fire to stay warm, he heard the voice again, the same whisper from long ago. You think you're safe? It hissed. The mark is inside you, not on your skin. Zion's eyes widened. You're lying, he shouted. But the fire flickered, and the shadows danced in strange shapes. Suddenly, flames rose from the bowl. From within the fire, a hand reached out, black as coal and burning. Zion stepped back in fear. You broke the deal, the voice growled. Now you will burn. Zion grabbed the silver chain around his neck and held it out toward the fire. The flame screamed. The hand pulled back. Zion stepped forward and prayed aloud. Light, protect me. Truth, guide me. I am not yours. The fire cracked and died down. Silence filled the air again. Zion fell to his knees, breathing hard. He had survived. Again, Zion spent the night inside the ruined temple, too afraid to sleep. Every sound made him jump. The stone floor felt cold, but the fire had warmed something deeper inside him, his courage. He knew now that the devil was still trying to reach him. But he also knew that light could fight back. The next morning, Zion searched the temple carefully. Behind a broken wall, he found an old chest covered in dust and cobwebs. It creaked open, revealing scrolls and a strange book wrapped in cloth. The pages were yellow, and the words were in an ancient language. One page had a picture of a man with a glowing heart that he carried the book to a village nearby, hoping to find someone who could read it. In that village, he met an old blind man named Baba Firaz, known for his wisdom. Zion showed him the book. Baba Firaz ran his fingers over the pages and said, "This is the Book of Light. Few know its power." Baba Firaz explained that the man with the glowing heart was a seeker of light. He, too, once had the devil's mark, Baba said. But he changed his heart with truth and courage. If you wish to break the devil's reach forever, you must find the flame of purity hidden deep in the mountains. Zion listened carefully. Where is this flame? He asked. Baba pointed to the hills in the distance. Beyond the forest of whispers, where the sun forgets to shine. Only the brave can reach it. But beware, many who try are never seen again. Zion nodded. He had made up his mind. He would go. The journey was long and cold. The forest of whispers was thick and dark. Trees bent like they were watching him. Strange voices echoed through the leaves, calling his name. But Zion did not stop. He held the book close and whispered a prayer with every step. At night, he saw the red eyes again, far off but always there. Once, he nearly slipped from a cliff, but a strong root caught him. He believed the light was protecting him. Each time he feared he would give up, he remembered his mother's smile. That gave him strength. After many days, Zion reached the foot of the mountain. There, an old gate stood, carved with words he couldn't read. As he stepped through it, the air changed. It smelled sweet, almost magical. The path was steep and full of stones, but at the top, he saw a faint golden light. He climbed slowly, each step harder than the last. The wind grew stronger, pushing against him like invisible hands. But Zion didn't stop. He reached a wide cave glowing with golden fire. In the center, a flame floated in the air, not touching the ground. It was beautiful and pure. Zion stepped closer. As he did, the flame moved, as if alive. "You carry darkness in your heart," it said softly. "Why should I cleanse you?" Zion knelt. "I made a mistake," he said. "I wanted to save someone I loved. But now I want to be free. I want to live in light, not fear." The flame grew brighter. "To be free, you must give something of value," it said. "Not gold, not blood, but truth." Zion thought for a moment. Then he took off the silver chain, placed it on the ground, and said, "I give you my fear. I no longer belong to the darkness." The flame rose high, shining like the sun. It touched Zion's chest. A warm light spread through him. He felt the pain of the past, the fear of the future. And then peace. When the light faded, the cave was silent. The flame was gone, but Zion felt different. He was whole. Zion stepped out of the glowing cave with a calm heart. The fear that once clung to him like shadows was gone. His footsteps felt lighter, and the cold wind no longer bit at his skin. It was as if the mountain had accepted him, and the flame of purity had blessed him with inner light. As he walked down the path, the forest no longer whispered. Instead, birds began to sing, and sunlight broke through the thick trees. Flowers bloomed along the trail where none had grown before. It was a sign that the curse had lifted. The devil's hold was truly broken. Zion returned to Baba Firas and told him everything. The old man smiled, his blind eyes shining. "You have done what many could not," he said. "You faced the darkness inside you and chose light. Now, your journey must continue, not for yourself, but for others who are still trapped." Zion didn't fully understand, but he trusted the wise man. That night, he dreamed again. This time, he saw a village burning and people crying for help. A shadow stood in the fire, laughing with a voice like the devil's. "More souls will be mine," it said. Zion woke up shaking. He knew the dream was not just a dream, it was a warning. Somewhere, evil was growing again. The devil had not stopped, he had only been pushed back. Zion could no longer be just a boy trying to save his mother. Now, he had to become a protector of others. He returned to his own village. People stared when they saw him. He looked stronger, wiser, and different somehow. Children ran to him, and the old priest welcomed him with open arms. "We thought we had lost you," he said. Zion smiled gently. "I found what I needed to fight the darkness." But everything was not peaceful. That night, a scream echoed through the village. A little girl named Amna had fallen into a strange sleep. Her eyes were open, but she could not move or speak. Her mother cried, and people whispered again. "It's the devil's work," someone said. Zion went to the girl's house and held her hand. Her skin was cold, and a tiny mark had appeared near her ear, just like his old one. He knew then that the devil had found a new way in. She didn't make a deal, her mother said. She's only a child. Zion nodded. But sometimes, the innocent suffer for others' darkness. He asked the priest for help again. Together, they read from the Book of Light. One page showed a child with a dark mark and a circle of people around her, holding hands. The power of one heart is strong, the priest said. But the power of many hearts joined in light is even stronger. That evening, Zion asked the villagers to gather. At first, they were afraid. But he spoke with calm and truth. The devil lives where there is fear, hate, and silence, he said. But when we stand together in hope, he cannot stay. Slowly, one by one, the people held hands around a sleeping child. Zion stood in the center and prayed aloud. The silver chain he had once left in the cave began to glow in his pocket. He took it out and placed it near the girl's heart. A warm light spread through her body. Suddenly, she gasped and sat up. The mark on her skin vanished like smoke, tears of joy filled the eyes of her family. The villagers clapped and cried, no longer afraid. Zion looked around and smiled. He had helped heal not just one soul, but an entire village. He realized then that his journey had a new purpose, to carry the light where the devil left darkness. For a while, peace returned to the village. People smiled more and helped one another. The fields gave good crops, and the nights were quiet. Zion spent his days teaching children, helping the priest, and reading more from the Book of Light. But in his heart, he knew the devil was not gone forever. One night, as the moon shone full and white, the wind brought a strange smell, burnt wood and ash. Zion stood outside and listened. Far in the distance, he heard drums. Slow, deep drums. The sound came from the woods. It didn't belong to any celebration. It felt old and dangerous. The next morning, smoke rose from the edge of the forest. A nearby village had been burned. Zion rushed there with a few others. What he saw chilled his bones. Houses had turned to ash, but no bodies were found. People were missing. Only black symbols were left behind, marks of the devil. Zion picked up a burned piece of wood. It had the same shape as the mark he once carried. He's taking people now, he whispered. He's building an army of shadows. The priest who came with him nodded slowly. He grows bold again. We must prepare for a war of light and darkness. Back in his village, Zion met with the elders. He told them the truth, that evil was not a story to scare children. It was real. It moved like smoke and struck in silence. We need to build a circle of light, he said. We must learn the ways of the old protectors, the seekers of light. They trained every day. Zion taught others how to read the signs of evil. He showed them how to keep their hearts strong and free from fear. A few brave men and women joined him. They wore silver bands, prayed at dawn and dusk, and carried fire with them into the night. One evening, while watching the stars, Zion heard a soft voice behind him. You've come far, but the road ends soon. He turned around. A girl in a black robe stood there. Her eyes were deep and empty. Who are you? He asked. She smiled faintly. I am the devil's voice. He remembers you. Before Zion could speak, the girl vanished into smoke. The grass where she stood turned black. He felt a chill rise in his spine. The message was clear, the devil had not forgotten his lost soul. And now, he wanted revenge more than ever before. Zion knew what he had to do. He could not wait for the devil to strike again. He had to go to the source, to the place where the shadows were born. He gathered his group and spoke clearly. We are not fighting for power. We are fighting for peace. But to win, we must face the fire. With silver chains and lighted lanterns, they set out toward the mountain of black stone. The path was steep, and the sky grew darker the closer they got. Birds stopped singing. Even the wind refused to blow. They were entering the Devil's Land, a place where light had not touched for 100 years. As they reached the cave's mouth, Zion felt his old fear return. But this time, he was not alone. He looked at the faces beside him. Each one glowed with quiet courage. "We walk in darkness," he said, "but we carry the flame." Then, with a deep breath, they stepped inside the mountain. The cave was wide and dark, with walls that seemed to breathe. Every step echoed like thunder, and the deeper they went, the colder it became. Zion held his lantern high, but the flame flickered, as if afraid. Behind him, the others walked quietly, holding their own lights close. Strange drawings covered the walls, twisting shapes, eyes without faces, and circles with sharp edges. These were marks of an old evil, forgotten by most. But Zion knew their meaning. "This is where the devil gathers power," he whispered. "This is where fear lives." Suddenly, the tunnel opened into a great black hall. In the center stood a tall throne made of bones and stone. Around it, dark shapes moved, half human, half shadow. Their eyes glowed red. They hissed softly when they saw the lanterns. One stepped forward, wearing a mask of fire. "Welcome back, Marked One," the creature said. "The devil remembers your soul. You were his once." Zion did not flinch. He stepped forward, holding out the book of light. "I was lost, but I was saved. And now I have come to end this darkness." The creature laughed, and fire burst from the ground. The shadows circled around them, ready to strike. But Zion's group stood firm. They formed a circle and lifted their lanterns. The light grew stronger, pushing the shadows back. One by one, the creatures screamed and vanished. A deep voice echoed through the hall. It was louder than thunder and colder than ice. "You dare to bring light into my home?" it roared. From the throne, a tall figure rose. His skin was dark as night, and two great horns curled from his head. His eyes burned like fire. This was the devil himself. Zion felt the air grow heavy. He struggled to breathe, but he did not back down. "You no longer own me," he said. "And you will not take another soul." The devil raised his hand, and black flames rushed toward them. But Zion opened the book, and a white light burst out like a sun. The flames stopped. The shadows screamed. The devil stepped back, covering his eyes. "No!" he shouted. "That light was sealed. You should not have it." Zion walked forward, the book still glowing. "This light lives in every heart that chooses truth over lies. It cannot be sealed forever." The ground began to shake. Rocks fell from the ceiling, and cracks ran across the throne. The devil roared and charged, but Zion stood firm. The silver chain around his neck glowed bright, and his friends stood beside him, their lanterns blazing with holy fire. Together, they chanted a prayer from the book. The words were simple, but full of power. "Let light rise. Let truth shine. Let evil fall." As they repeated the prayer, the hall filled with golden light. The devil screamed and stumbled, his form breaking apart like smoke in the wind. At last, with a final cry, the devil vanished. The throne cracked in two. The black fire died, and silence filled the hall. Slowly, the darkness faded. And the walls of the cave began to glow with soft light. The mountain, once cursed, was now clean. Zion and his friends walked out into the sunlight. The sky was clear, and birds flew freely above them. The village far below looked peaceful. "It is over," Zion said softly. "The devil is gone." But in his heart, he knew something else. The fight between darkness and light never truly ends. Zion and his friends returned to the village as heroes. People cheered and cried when they saw them. Bells rang in the temple, and children threw flower petals in their path. But Zion didn't feel like a hero. He felt like someone who had been given a heavy gift, a gift he must protect. He sat alone that night, looking at the stars. The silver chain still hung around his neck, warm against his skin. The book of light rested beside him. Though the devil was gone, Zion could still feel a soft whisper in the wind. Darkness never truly dies. It hides. It waits. In the days that followed, Zion began to teach others what he had learned. He opened a school inside the old temple. There, children learned not only to read and write but also how to guard their hearts. The greatest weapon, he said, is a soul that cannot be fooled by fear. Some of his friends traveled to other villages to spread the light. They carried small copies of the book and silver chains. Wherever they went, they taught people how to recognize the signs of darkness. Slowly, the land began to heal. Fear became less, and hope grew stronger. Years passed, but Zion did not grow tired. He still walked in the forest, still listened to the wind. Sometimes he helped families who had lost their way. He never asked for thanks. He only said, "I once followed darkness too. But someone helped me see the truth. Now it's my turn." One evening, a boy came to him, scared and shaking. He had a small mark near his eye. Zion looked at it and nodded calmly. "You made a deal." The boy nodded. "I only wanted to stop my father from dying," he whispered. Zion took his hand and said, "Then let me help you find the light again." They walked together through the forest, back to the mountain where Zion had once faced the devil. The black hall was gone now, replaced by a garden filled with golden flowers. In the center stood a glowing tree, its branches wide and strong. The boy stared in wonder. Zion placed the boy's hand on the tree's trunk. "This tree grew from the light we planted," he said. "It holds the power to cleanse all evil, but only if your heart truly wishes to change." The boy closed his eyes. A gentle wind blew, and the mark on his face faded away. Zion smiled as they walked back. The boy laughed for the first time in months. The land around them seemed brighter, the sky clearer. Zion knew then that the light was not his alone. It had spread, like fire passed from one torch to another. And it would never go out. That night, Zion wrote something in the back of the book of light. It was not a spell or a prayer. It was a message: if you carry the devil's mark, do not fear. Even the darkest soul can shine again. But you must choose the light and walk with courage. Zion never stopped walking. He became known as the guardian of light, a protector of the weak and a guide for the lost. But he never looked for praise. He only smiled and said, "I was once a boy who made a mistake. Now I help others fix theirs." Years passed, and Zion grew older. His hair turned gray, and his steps slowed, but his heart stayed strong. He still woke before sunrise, lit a small lantern, and prayed by the temple window. People from far away came to see him, not as a warrior, but as a wise man with kind eyes. The book of light had grown old too. Its cover was worn, and its pages soft with use. But it still shone when opened, as if the words inside were alive. Zion kept it near his heart. "As long as this book exists," he once said, "the darkness will never win." One cold morning, a girl named Sanaa came running to him. She was only 12, but her eyes held fear far older. "Master Zion," she cried, "my brother is missing. He went into the forest and didn't come back." Zion stood slowly, leaning on his staff. "Then we must go find him." Together they entered the woods. The trees whispered again, but Zion was not afraid. He followed the trail of broken branches and soft footprints. Sanaa held his hand tightly. After an hour, they heard a sound, a boy crying near the river, his foot caught between two stones. Zion rushed forward and freed the boy. The boy's arm had a fresh mark, dark and thin like a thorn. Sanaa gasped. "Is it the devil's mark?" she asked. Zion looked closely. Then he smiled. "No, child. This is just a scratch from a branch. The real devil's mark is fear. And fear can be healed. They walked back to the village. On the way, Zion told them stories, not of battles, but of hope. Do you know why I still walk? He asked. Because every soul I help shines brighter than the last. And one day, there will be so much light that even the devil will not find a place to hide. That evening, Zion felt very tired. He sat by the fire and closed his eyes. People gathered quietly, sensing something was different. Sanaa held his hand. Will you be here tomorrow? She asked. Zion smiled. I will always be here, little one. In every story, every light, every brave heart. As the stars came out, Zion took one final breath and slipped away, peaceful and smiling. The book of light lay on his chest, its pages glowing softly. A warm wind blew through the village, and the sky shone with a strange golden light, as if the heavens were welcoming a hero. The next day, the people built a stone tower in the middle of the village. At its top, they placed a large lantern. Lit from the flame Zion had kept all his life. They called it the Tower of the Last Light, and it never went dark. Travelers came from across the land to see it. Children were told the story of the boy with the devil's mark who chose to fight for good. His name was written in every book, every song, and every prayer. And it is said that when someone loses their way, a silver light appears in the forest to guide them home, for the light that Zion gave was not his alone. It now lived in every person who believed that good was stronger than evil. And so, even though the devil's mark once cursed a soul, it also became a sign of a journey, from darkness to light, from fear to courage. From loss to hope. As the years went on, the story of Zion spread far and wide. His name became known in every village, every city, even in lands beyond the mountains. The people spoke of him not as a warrior, but as a symbol of hope that could never fade. His legacy was carried on by those who remembered his teachings, who passed the light to others. Many people came to the Tower of the Last Light to seek guidance. Some were lost, some were afraid, and others were just looking for peace. They would stand at the base of the tower, staring at the glowing lantern at its peak, and feel their hearts calm. The lantern, no matter the weather, never went out. It shone like a star in the darkest night. One day, a young boy named Ali arrived at the tower. His face was tired, and his eyes held the shadows of worry. He had heard the story of Zion and came to ask for help. I carry a burden, he said softly, a burden that no one can see. I am afraid of the darkness inside me. The keeper of the tower, an old woman who had known Zion, smiled gently at the boy. Come, she said, I will show you something. She led him up the steps to the top of the tower. As they reached the lantern, the light seemed to grow brighter. The old woman spoke quietly, Zion once told us that the light lives inside every person. But it cannot shine unless you choose to let it. Ali looked at the lantern, confused. But I feel so lost. I can't find the light inside me. The woman nodded. The darkness you feel is not your enemy. It is a part of you, but it does not define you. Zion learned that. He faced the devil's mark within himself. He didn't run from it. He turned it into something good. Ali took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the old woman's words. So, I must face my darkness? He asked. Yes, she replied. But remember, you are not alone. Zion's light is still here, in this tower, in this village, and in every heart that chooses light over fear. Ali's eyes began to brighten. For the first time, he didn't feel afraid of his own thoughts. He didn't feel like the darkness would win. As he left the tower, he walked with a new purpose. He knew his journey wasn't over, but now he understood that the light would always be with him, guiding him through the shadows. Years turned into decades, and the Tower of the Last Light stood tall and unyielding. The village around it grew, and the people who lived there passed on Zion's story, teaching their children the importance of light, of hope, and of choosing the good path. no matter how hard it might be. As time went on, more and more people came to visit the tower, each seeking their own answers, each carrying their own fears and doubts. But with each visitor, the light of the tower grew stronger, as if it were a beacon that called to the hearts of all who were lost. Then, one day, an old woman arrived at the tower. Her hair was silver, and her steps were slow, but her eyes were bright. She carried with her an old book, one that was worn and covered in dust. It was the Book of Light. As she entered the tower, the keeper of the lantern looked at her in surprise. "That book, it belonged to Zion," she said. The old woman nodded and opened the book. "I was the one who first found Zion in the forest," she said. "He was just a boy, lost and afraid. But through the years, he became the one who helped so many find their way. He didn't just fight the devil's mark in others. He fought it in himself every day." The keeper of the tower smiled. "Zion taught us all that the greatest fight is not against the darkness around us, but the darkness within us. And when we face it with courage and hope, we can all find the light." The old woman nodded and left the book on the pedestal of the lantern. As she walked away, a soft golden light began to shine from the book. The keeper of the lantern turned to the crowd that had gathered and said, "Zion's legacy is not just the story of one boy, but of all of us. We are the light he started, and as long as we keep choosing light over darkness, we will carry his spirit with us, forever." And so, the legend of Zion, the boy who once carried the devil's mark and chose the path of light, continued to echo through the generations. His story was told in every village, every city, and every corner of the world. People no longer feared the devil or the darkness that could take hold of their hearts. Instead, they carried Zion's light with them, knowing that no matter how dark the world might seem, they would always find the way home. As the years passed, the Tower of the Last Light became more than just a symbol. It became a place of pilgrimage. People from every corner of the world came to see it, each one carrying their own burdens and fears. Some came looking for answers, while others came searching for something they had lost. But all found the same thing, the flame of hope. One winter, a man named Omar arrived at the tower. He had traveled for many days, his face weathered by the cold and his heart heavy with regret. He had heard of Zion and the light that still burned brightly, but he had lost faith in everything long ago. His village had been destroyed by a great fire, and he had lost his family in it. "I have nothing left," Omar told the keeper of the lantern. "No hope. No purpose. I've seen too much darkness. I don't know how to believe anymore." The keeper looked at him with kind eyes. "You've come to the right place," she said. "This tower holds the light that Zion left behind. It shines for those who are lost, for those who think the darkness is stronger than the light." Omar shook his head. "But I can't see it," he said. "The darkness is too much for me." The keeper smiled gently and took Omar by the hand. "The light is not something you can see with your eyes alone. You must feel it. Let it fill your heart. Zion taught us that the true strength of the light comes from within." She led him up the steps to the top of the tower. As they reached the lantern, Omar could feel the warmth of the flame. It was small, but it was steady and bright, like a star in the night sky. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. At that moment, something shifted inside him. He remembered the faces of his family, the love they had shared, and the kindness that had once filled his life. For the first time in years, he felt a spark of warmth in his chest. The darkness inside him, the pain, the grief, was still there, but now it no longer seemed as powerful. The light was there, too, soft, but strong. "I understand now," Omar whispered. "I've been carrying the darkness because I was afraid to let go. But the light, it was always here. I just needed to choose it." The keeper nodded. "The light was always in you, Omar." Zion knew this truth. He knew that every person has the power to choose the light, no matter how deep the darkness. Omar left the tower with a new sense of peace. He didn't feel as if the darkness had disappeared, but he understood that the light could live alongside it. It was not about erasing pain, but about learning how to live with hope in your heart, even in the face of suffering. In the years that followed, Omar became a guide for others. He returned to his village, which had been rebuilt from the ashes. He shared the story of Zion and the light that had saved him. He taught others to find their own light, just as Zion had taught him. And slowly, the village began to heal, not just from the fire, but from the fear that had once consumed it. As the flame of hope continued to shine in the tower of the last light, the story of Zion, the boy who had once carried the devil's mark, was told in every village, every city, and every land. His legacy lived on in the hearts of those who chose the light, who carried it forward, and who never let it die. And so, the world became brighter. The darkness could still be felt, but it no longer had the power to control. The light was in the hearts of those who believed in it, who carried it, and who passed it on to others. The devil's mark, once a symbol of fear and despair, became a mark of hope, a reminder that no matter how deep the darkness, the light could always return. The years passed, and the world slowly began to change. The darkness that once seemed so powerful no longer held the same sway over people's hearts. Zion's story had spread to every village, every town, and even to far-off lands. His light had become something more than just a tale, it was a living, breathing truth. It was a flame that grew brighter every time someone chose hope over fear. One bright spring morning, a traveler arrived at the tower of the last light. Her name was Layla, and she had come from a land far beyond the mountains. She had heard of Zion's teachings and the power of the light he had left behind, and she was determined to learn more. She had lost her own family to a terrible war, and like so many others, she carried the weight of grief in her heart. Layla approached the tower with caution, unsure of what she would find. She had been searching for peace for many years, but the pain of her past still clung to her like a shadow. As she stepped inside, the keeper of the lantern welcomed her with a warm smile. "You have come seeking something, haven't you?" the keeper asked gently. Layla nodded. "I have come to find peace," she said softly. "But I don't know how to find it." The keeper led Layla up the winding staircase to the top of the tower. As they reached the lantern, the keeper paused. "This light is not a thing you can hold in your hand. It is something you must hold in your heart. Zion taught us that peace does not come from the world around us, but from the strength inside us." Layla looked at the lantern. The flame flickered brightly, but it wasn't a fiery blaze. It was gentle, steady, and calm. It seemed to shine not in spite of the darkness, but because of it. Layla felt a warmth in her chest, a small spark that seemed to grow the longer she stared at the light. "I don't know if I can ever be at peace," she said, her voice trembling. "The pain of what I've lost is too great." The keeper smiled and placed a hand on Layla's shoulder. "The pain you carry is real, and it is a part of who you are. But it does not have to be the end of your story." Zion knew that. He faced the darkness, but he also found the light in it. And so can you. Layla closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She could feel the pain in her heart, but she could also feel the light inside her. It was a quiet, steady presence, like the glow of the lantern. She didn't know if it would ever erase the grief, but she knew it could help her carry it. The light would guide her through the darkness, not by removing it, but by showing her the way. As Layla left the tower, she felt different. The world hadn't changed, but her view of it had. She no longer felt like a victim of her past. Instead, she felt like someone who could face the future, no matter how uncertain it was. She understood now that peace didn't come from forgetting the past, but from finding the strength to move forward with hope. In the years that followed, Layla became a teacher, sharing the lessons she had learned from Zion's story. She traveled far and wide, helping those who, like her, had been touched by loss. She showed them that the light Zion had spoken of was not a distant thing. It was something they could carry inside them, a flame that would always burn, no matter how dark the world seemed. The Tower of the Last Light continued to stand as a beacon of hope, guiding lost souls back to the light. And though Zion was no longer there in person, his spirit lived on in every heart that chose to carry the light, in every soul that chose to fight the darkness within. and so, the world continued to heal. People learned to face their fears, their grief, and their doubts, knowing that the light would always be with them, guiding them home. The devil's mark was no longer a symbol of evil or fear. It was a symbol of the journey every soul must take, from darkness to light, from despair to hope.